Welcome to the next session. It's my pleasure, absolute pleasure, to introduce Mr. Vinod Grover. Vinod Grover is the managing director, the founding managing director of the Kaizen Institute. Mr. Grover is based in this city in Pune, and he's the man who established the Kaizen Institute before 2000. Officially it was launched in the year 2000, so 25 years. He's a mechanical engineer from IIT Delhi. A long career with the industry. He was with several industries, and his last position was as the president of Electronica Machine Tools, manufacturing wire EDM. Electronica, some of you from Pune may know Electronica. Then he started his second innings, as he says, around the 90s, mid-90s, where he started applying these practices, world-class quality, Kaizen practices to various clients, and then he established the Kaizen Institute in the year 2000. So what he established with a few friends, we are now a team of about 90 consultants, 90 team members. We operate in Africa and India. Of course, Kaizen Institute operates all over the world, but we are responsible for India and Africa. So the next session we'll be talking about exploring the building blocks of leadership which is required for excellence. Over to you, Mr. Grover. This is a masterclass session, so please take notes, ask questions, make it interactive. Thank you.
Good morning. Let's have a little more enthusiasm. If you say a louder good morning, it won't go too much outside the hall, but at least I'll know that we are all together. Good morning. Thank you. Well, what I'm going to talk about is on the role of leadership and role of leaders in successful change management. For some reason, it's being called a master class, although it should be a student class. All of us have to learn as students, including myself. This is the learning that has been synthesized over many years. We have tried to keep it very, very simple. There are a lot of complex theories about leadership, but in Kaizen, we believe in keeping things as simple as possible. So what I've done is, since we are behind scheduled, I've just cut down about 30 minutes from the overall presentation that I have. And I'll also make sure that I don't monopolize the session. There'll be more eminent speakers who will be speaking to you through videos. Let's start. This is what we do. We set the context, although the context has been well set already, but I'll speak about why certain concepts are being brought about. We'll define a leader. Now, Dr. Raghuvanshi also said leadership is contextual, but in the context in which we are working is the context of managing change, and therefore we have to be very clear about what do we mean by a leader. And then we'll look at three roles of leaders. The last one is one of the key learnings I had a few years back. And I hope if there is one takeaway from this session for all of you, it will be a session worth its while. This is something that you all know about. The first transformation, major transformation came about when this definition was expanded about 20 years back by our founder, Mr. Masaki Imai. He added these three words. Addition of these three words makes a mega difference. It brings in the cultural aspect. Everyone, every day, everywhere can only happen if it is an organizational culture. The gap that we were feeling as practitioners for many years was that people were learning a lot from what Japan did and what Toyota did, but we were not able to form another Toyota anywhere in the world. So people were looking for the missing ingredient, and the missing ingredient was partly provided by Mr. Imai when he talked about everyone, every day, everywhere. And that's where the cultural element got into the practices, which was already present in the original founder's mind, but it has not been articulated. Now, why do we need to change? I think you've got the answers. The world is changing around us at an exponential pace. If we don't keep up, we'll either be left behind or become obsolete ourselves. And in this hyper-competitive world, which is becoming even more difficult thanks to Donald Trump, we also have to survive. Let's understand some concepts. We talk about business excellence. The word here, key word is that here is sustainable. And when we talk of profits, we are of course talking about not the kind of organizations who you saw earlier in the morning. We are not talking of government, we are not talking of NGOs. We are talking of most other for-profit organizations. Business excellence is composed of strategic excellence, having the right strategies for survival, for growth, and operational excellence. The difference is being effective and being efficient. Effective means we should be doing the right things so that we can differentiate ourselves. This is the story of finding opportunities in the environment thanks to social changes, technological changes, environmental changes, thanks to regulation changes, and finding opportunities for ourselves from that environment based on our strengths and weaknesses. That is what we call strategy. And operational excellence basically talks about how do we use our resources efficiently in order to create customer value. When you sum up these two, some of these two is business excellence. Only the second part talks about operational excellence. Now, over decades, organizations have always tried hard to become, to adopt some kind of change initiatives to become better, to become competitive, to survive, and all that. Because in today's world, if you're not changing, you'll probably become obsolete. So people have tried initiatives. But if we look at the literature, look at the success rates of the organization, the story is pretty dismal. Success rate is low, up to 90% of initiatives don't succeed. Another study says between 70 to 90% initiatives fail to realize what they started off as business objectives. And those who succeed also leave at least 40% of potential gains unrealized. And these come from various kinds of studies, which are cited below. Now, if success rates are low, then we have to find countermeasures. Call it 70 or 90% companies fail to execute strategy. So what stops? There are four kinds of barriers that we have identified. The first one is called the vision barrier. People go on off-site, spend 2 days, 3 days with consultants, come up with beautiful strategic documents which are bound in files and computers. And after that, other than those 10 people who went, nobody else in the organization really knows what happened, what is the outcome. The vision is not shared by the rest of the organization, it is not communicated, it's not cascaded down. And that, of course, is the biggest barrier. Nothing can move unless there is an alignment within the organization. The second is called the management barrier. If you have a strategy, you should be converting into an action plan, and the action plan has to be reviewed, and the gaps have to be addressed. Now, if you don't do that, if you don't even spend 1 hour per month towards forwarding, making your strategy a reality, it's not going to happen on its own. That's the second barrier. Third barrier, people forget to put budget behind their strategy. So if I want to buy a small machine, sorry, I don't have a budget, nothing will move. And the final one is called the people's barrier. What is the people's barrier? Our performance management systems are not aligned to the strategy. We keep talking about succeeding as a team, working as a team. All our performance management systems are evaluating performance of people individually, not that of teams. My increment and my promotion depends on my performance management system, which is not aligned with this strategy. Therefore, what I do will not align with this strategy. These are the four major barriers. Now, the model that you heard from Gopal earlier this morning is designed to address all these four barriers. Now read the statement and tell me how many of you agree with this statement. Just raise your hand. How many of you agree with the statement on the board? Only 2, 3, 4, 5 people? You need to have great execution or great strategy. Which one is better? So let's focus on execution. And this gentleman will now be speaking about how he transformed one organization. I don't know how many of you know this gentleman. Have you heard of this gentleman? Yes. Great. So he'll talk about his story, the story of leadership and how leaders lead change. What happened to the sound, please? Shall I start again?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here to tell you the story of the first indigenous semi-high-speed train built in India. This was a homegrown product, a rolling stock, a railway vehicle from concept to design to engineer to manufacture to validation and testing, done entirely by a team of Chennai railwaymen. This is not the story of one man. This is the story of a Chennai team which has showed to the world that India can also do it. I come to you as a railwayman for life. Indian Railways have a long 170-year-old history and legacy, a lot of romance, the fight for that window seat through which the marvel of Indian way of life, the magic of India passed you by. Lifeline of the nation, as they say, but I'm not here to talk to you about that romance. I'm going to talk to you about this. As a young boy and as a railwayman, I always wondered why our trains for last 50, 60, 70 years look the same. And why not a modern train set with higher speed, more comfort, and better aesthetics. Well, what's a modern train set? You are familiar with a train which has a number of coaches and a locomotive on either end. They get coupled and decoupled as per requirement at destination for maintenance. But a modern train set is a number of coaches permanently coupled together, and all the equipment for powering, air conditioning, lighting, and what have you is all placed on the train. There is no locomotive. Now, it has many advantages. It has redundancy, comfort, it is more efficient, the maintainability is better. Added to that, we have this reversal problem in other coaches. This train can reverse itself. Since you can pack more equipment on the train, it has more power, more speed, and more acceleration, and more deceleration as well. From one cab to the other cab, if it's a 16-coach train like our own train, you can walk from one end to another without realizing that you are crossing a coach to coach because they're wide gangways with a lot of comfort. So if it has so many advantages, and this is the trend world over for last 25, 30 years, they don't make for this speed range any locomotive hauled train. Why is it that we don't have these trains? The answer, I'm sorry, is not very complimentary to Indian Railways because we have departments. One department maintains the coaches, another one maintains the locomotives. Now everything is on one. So who's going to own it? Whose empire is it going to be? And that fight for last 25, 30 years with debates and procrastination, and we reach nowhere. In addition, there has been a lobby to import these trains. Long time, another lobby opposing it, which was losing the empire. Fortunately, the import did not take place, but mine was a lone voice. I was a part of the lobbying as well, but I always said that you can't stop a good thing, you can delay it. So why not sit down and decide what's good for the country and give it to us? But it remained my lone voice, just a dream. In August 2016, I was due to become a general manager, and I asked for and was posted in Integral Coach Factory, Chennai. This was set up in 1950s, the vision of the then Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, to make India self-reliant, in this case, self-reliant in making world-class current technology coaches. It has gone through many expansions since then. Numbers keep rising, but if we even have a world record for having made the maximum number of coaches in the world. But more of the same. In 1950s, Premier Chow En Lai came to ICF and said, every Orient should be proud of this factory. I would like Chinese engineers to come and learn here as to how to make coaches. But the vision was never realized because of more of the same, numbers, no variety. And today, where are we? We are far behind. We make a beeline to go to China and learn from them. Well, when I landed, I found a very dedicated and great team of officers. My fortune is already there in ICF. And the staff, the design, and the manufacturing staff, they had this ennui written on their face. More of the same, doing more of the same. They were raring to go. They had that technical chutzpah, that audacity to try something new, and it needed channelization. Well, adopting some simple measures of leadership like empathy, like openness, shedding of the stifling protocol and bureaucracy that you have in railways, welcoming ideation, and recognizing those who work and coming down hard on those who did not, we started making some progress. One example, in our foyer of the administrative block, we had this place corner like most government offices where the janitor used to keep brooms and buckets. We transformed it into a family tree. All 11,000 faces, not one smaller one, not one bigger, all placed there, and it became a place for selfies. And this was the new ICF, which was trying to burgeon, and this was my opportunity. More of the same, but an exponential growth in outturn. And in 2018, when we make 2,500 free coaches, we thought we became the biggest factory in the world. And next year, when we made 3,262, we settled all out and became the biggest factory in the world. Only factory, through some large-scale solar installation, we became the only carbon negative company of Indian Railways, generating more renewable energy than consuming. 12.5 megawatt was generation, 12 megawatt was our consumption. Picasso has said that art is a way of washing away the dust of everyday life from your soul. It exhilarates, uplifts, motivates. Why not try visual art as a means to encourage engineering motivation? So I tried visual art all over the factory, sculpture from scrap, and people wonder whether Integral Coach Factory today is an art gallery in a factory or a factory in an art gallery. And we attacked this more of the same business also on a smaller scale. In 2 years, we did have some trains which are now running. Turned out where the look was changed, all using the same staff and the same officers. This was my opportunity to do something more and bigger. When I am with a smaller audience, I ask as to do anything, anywhere, what do you need? First and foremost, answers, leadership, passion, will, determination. But I say, the answer is very simple. Love what you do. And from that follows, you love your organization, you love your colleagues. Start with love. Because human resource is your most important resource, irrespective of all the machines and wherewithal you can have. Unless they are with you, you will not lead anywhere. One poet has said that is love se mohabbat ka adna sa fasana hai. This word love has a small story. Simte to dile aashik, phaile to zamana hai. Well, we all talk of all the ills all around us. Everything is bad, a lot of concerns, but we forget that small dot of influence where we can work and do something. Shikwa zulmat shabd se kahin behtar hota. It's better than complaining about darkness कि अपने हिस्से की एक शम्मा जलाते जाते. This was the time to light the candle of my dream. And we are told that you must live your dream. First, you must look after yourself, your bread and butter. But don't let that dream die. You never know when the opportunity will present itself and you can realize your dream. And this was the time for me. So, platform, vision, fortune was with me, opportunity. But there were doubts and challenges. First doubt, where is the sanction? You need to get it from the ministry. So I said, I'm your leader, I'll go to the ministry, get you the sanction. But what a foolhardy person I was. In the railway board, derision, skepticism, negativity. So this guy is trying to spin a yarn. I was not going anywhere, but the chairman railway board knew me. I went to him. I said, do you think we can do it? He said, I think you can do it, but railway board is holding me back. I said, you are the chairman. You import what you want. Give me a sanction for 2 trains. And I will do it at 1/3 the cost. And if you're not going to do it, I am falling at your feet. Right now, not leaving it till you give me the sanction. Ladies and gentlemen, somebody will kill your vanity someday. It's better that you kill it yourself today. I come back to my team and I said, here's the sanction. Let's move. They said, yes, we are capable, we'll do it. But what if we fail? 200 crores, who will be the scapegoat? Our doubts are traitors which make us lose the good we might win by fearing to attempt. Girte hain sheh sawar hi maidane jang mein. Only a mounted soldier falls in a battlefield. Wo tifl kya gire jo ghutnon ke bal chale. The days of your crawling are over. You'll be a mounted soldier, all of you. And if we deliver this good train, first of its kind in India, the credit is all yours. If we fail, this old man is going to retire in 1 year. What can they do to him? Don't worry. Now, from now on, the team will connect. Kill your vanity, and if you make a mistake, own up. Because from every mistake, you will learn and become a better engineer. Sometimes fault can be worse than the excuse. That done, they said, what will be our mode? We have been getting all these trains, all these 60, 70 years through technology transfer. You bring in, you order on a multinational, you bring in some trains, then knock down kits, then you start making it, but you make it worse than what you brought 15 years back. Why? Because technology cannot be transferred. It's an oxymoron. Technology is not just a set of drawings and specifications and documents. It lives in the mind and the heart of the creator. Can you transfer that? So we will do it on our own, good or bad. We will not look up to anybody sitting on a high pedestal. It will be entirely our train, and we are going to make it. Yes, but the Bard has also said that you should never be a foolish wise person. You should be a wise fool. There may be some areas like a bogie design, which has never been done, which we can't do. So we will engage consultants. Consultant has no stake in supplying in future. He will sit with you. That's the contract. Every single line that he draws, every word that he writes in the spec will be done along with you so that you learn, and the entire know-how, entire know-why, the entire IPR is with us. And that's how this model worked. And only one more doubt, they said, that we are in April 17, such a project usually takes 36 to 42 months. You will retire in December 18, we'll be left midway. New leader may say that, why are you doing this risky job? More of the same is better. I said, yes, that's a problem. But I have a solution. Our minds may not be where the European or the American or the Japanese mind is, but we are Indians, we can work like donkeys. गधों की तरह काम कर सकते हैं और गधों की तरह काम करेंगे दिन रात 24/7. We will turn out this train before December 2018. Calendar year 2018, and to remind everyone, this train is being called Train 18 from today. And now, if you have it in you, the purpose, courage, and the valor, this is the time to show it. This was the beginning and, in a way, end of my story, because rest is a matter of only hard work, glitches, hitches, but synergy, solving it. And as we were building it, some hype was also created, so we were apprehensive that what if it fails? But anyway, fortune was with us because we were working hard. Come 27th October, the train was finally unveiled. In a ceremony unparalleled in any factory of Indian Railways, with Dolu Kunita band from Bangalore, flurry of that. And after that, the train was sent to trial and validation online. And sometime in the first week of December, the first time any train in India went above 180 kilometers per hour, reached that speed. Some more tests and validation, and it was put in service as Vande Bharat Express by the Prime Minister himself, running between Varanasi and Delhi. Ladies and gentlemen, we just built a train. It's not a rocket or Chandrayaan. But the love we got from the countrymen, why? Because I thought, the first time they thought, that this was a product of our own, made by us. And 1,000 such projects are burgeoning, ladies and gentlemen. All it needs is leadership with passion, empathy, and a sense of purpose. Thank you very much.
Would that be an apt example of leadership for change? Yes or no? Yes. So it has quite a few hidden messages. We'll let you absorb them at your own speed, at your own thoughts. But let's proceed further and answer the question, who is a leader? There are many definitions available. And let's try and focus. We are not talking of political leadership. Keep that definition out. We are talking of corporate leadership. So will you be able to define who is a leader in the corporate world? As I said, we want to keep it simple. A worker or a value adder is someone who is responsible for the result he or she produces. Shall I repeat that? A worker or value adder is someone who is responsible for the output that comes out of his own efforts. A leader is someone who is responsible for the results of the output produced by a team that works with him. Are we okay? A worker is responsible for the output that I produce. A leader is someone who is responsible for the results produced by a team that works with him. He himself as a leader may or may not do anything. Is that an acceptable definition? So a leader is someone who is responsible for the results the team produces. So therefore, there are a few corollaries. First thing, its team succeeds together or fails together. Unlike some situations in IPL where you might find the man of the match comes from a losing team. It doesn't happen very often, but that's possible. Yes or no? But in the corporate world, this will always be true. However, our performance management systems don't always say so. You can have a team failing, but you will have a few successful guys who get promotion, increments, and so on. There is a disconnect there. There is another corollary. So let me keep it black for a minute. What is the secret of success of a leader? Given the definition. Since a leader is responsible for the results produced by his team, the secret of success is the team has to succeed. Is that a secret? That's a corollary. I can succeed as a leader only when my team succeeds. So what is my role as a leader? In self-interest. If I want to succeed, my only role is to make sure that my team succeeds. And therefore, the role of the leader is simple. Find out what stops your team or team members from succeeding. Find out those obstacles and remove those obstacles. That is the only role of a leader. I repeat, that is the only role of a leader. There is no other role. Have clear definition of success. Find out why people are not able to achieve that success. Remove those obstacles. It can be the skills of people, it can be a lack of resources, it can be because decisions are not available in time, whatever it be. You have to find the reasons which cause a gap between expectation and reality. Remove those obstacles, your team will succeed. So the only role of a team leader is to find out the obstacles that are stopping the team from succeeding and remove those obstacles. If that is an acceptable definition, you know the secret of success as a leader. Then we have to think about, do we really play that role? So role of a leader is identify and remove obstacles that hinder the team members from succeeding every day. Why the word every day? See, if I want to succeed every year, I must learn to succeed every month. If I want to succeed in a month, I must learn to succeed every week. If I want to succeed every week, I must learn to succeed every day. But it shouldn't stop here. If I want to succeed every day, I must eventually learn to succeed every hour. And if I want to succeed every hour, what really it means is that every cycle of production, every cycle of the process must succeed. Therefore, Kaizen starts at this basic. How do I make sure that my process is stable, every cycle is standardized, so that I am able to succeed in every cycle. If I succeed in every cycle, everything else follows.
Charlie Kim, who's the CEO of a company called NextJump in New York City, a tech company, he makes the point that if you had hard times in your family, would you ever consider laying off one of your children? We would never do it. Then why do we consider laying off people inside our organization? Charlie implemented a policy of lifetime employment. If you get a job at NextJump, you cannot get fired for performance issues. In fact, if you have issues, they will coach you and they will give you support, just like we would with one of our children who happens to come home with a C from school. It's the complete opposite. This is the reason so many people have such a visceral hatred, sort of anger at some of these banking CEOs with their disproportionate salaries and bonus structures. It's not the numbers. It's that they have violated the very definition of leadership. They have violated this deep-seated social contract. We know that they allowed their people to be sacrificed so that they could protect their own interests. Or worse, they sacrificed their people to protect their own interests. This is what so offends us, not the numbers. Would anybody be offended if we gave a $150 million bonus to Gandhi? How about a $250 million bonus to Mother Teresa? Do we have an issue with that? None at all. None at all. Great leaders would never sacrifice the people to save the numbers. They would sooner sacrifice the numbers to save the people. Bob Chapman, who runs a large manufacturing company in the Midwest called Barry Waymiller, in 2008, was hit very hard by the recession, and they lost 30% of their orders overnight. Now, in a large manufacturing company, this is a big deal, and they could no longer afford their labor pool. They needed to save $10 million. So, like so many companies today, the board got together and discussed layoffs. And Bob refused. You see, Bob doesn't believe in head counts. Bob believes in heart counts. And it's much more difficult to simply reduce the heart count. And so they came up with a furlough program. Every employee from secretary to CEO was required to take 4 weeks of unpaid vacation. They could take it any time they wanted, and they did not have to take it consecutively. But it was how Bob announced the program that mattered so much. He said, it's better that we should all suffer a little than any of us should have to suffer a lot. And morale went up. They saved $20 million. And most importantly, as would be expected, when the people feel safe and protected by the leadership in the organization, the natural reaction is to trust and cooperate. And quite spontaneously, nobody expected, people started trading with each other. Those who could afford it more would trade with those who could afford it less. People would take 5 weeks so that somebody else only had to take 3. Leadership is a choice. It is not a rank. I know many people at the senior-most levels of organizations who are absolutely not leaders. They are authorities, and we do what they say because they have authority over us, but we would not follow them. And I know many people who are at the bottoms of organizations who have no authority, and they are absolutely leaders. And this is because they have chosen to look after the person to the left of them, and they have chosen to look after the person to the right of them. This is what a leader is. I heard a story of some Marines who were out in theater, and as is the Marine custom, the officer ate last, and he let his men eat first. And when they were done, there was no food left for him. And when they went back out in the field, his men brought him some of their food so that he may eat. Because that's what happens. We call them leaders because they go first. We call them leaders because they take the risk before anybody else does. We call them leaders because they will choose to sacrifice so that their people may be safe and protected and so their people may gain. And when we do, the natural response is that our people will sacrifice for us. They will give us their blood and sweat and tears to see that their leader's vision comes to life. And when we ask them, why would you do that? Why would you give your blood and sweat and tears for that person? They all say the same thing. Because they would have done it for me. And isn't that the organization we would all like to work in? Thank you very much. Thank you.
Anybody remembers any specific sentence from this small video? A little louder. Yeah, head count and heart count. There was a statement which said, leadership is not a position. Leadership is not a rank. People can be leaders without having a rank. Let's now look at the Kaizen leadership model, which brings some of these concepts together, and you heard some of these early concepts from Gopal in the morning. And before I proceed, I'll show a statement to you and go silent. Please read it carefully for a minute, and then we'll discuss. So what is the message we get from here? If we want to be an excellent organization, what is the way forward? First of all, there are not enough brilliant people to man every process in any organization. But if you still want to be excellent, there is only one choice. Only one choice. We have to have brilliant processes. Only brilliant processes will produce brilliant results. It doesn't matter whether the people manning those processes themselves are brilliant or average. So most of our organizations, if we have to be excellent, all we have available to us, the choice is only to build brilliant processes. Who will do it? Who will build those brilliant processes? Can outsiders come and do it for you? Any kind of consultant can he do it for you? Eventually, it has to be done by the people who are closest to those processes. Others can be facilitators, they can be coaches, they can be catalysts. Once we understand that simple analogy, how do we define excellence in that case? What is the journey of excellence? The journey of excellence is actually nothing except an ongoing quest for a perfect process. That's all we are looking for. The bad news is no processes will become perfect in our and your lifetime. The good news is there's plenty to do if we start today. So based on this understanding, we have a very simple leadership model. You can see at the bottom is self-development. You can't be a great leader unless you have chosen to be better than your team members at least. You have to develop first, develop your own ability first. And then there are three kind of things to improve. We have to improve our strategies, we have to improve our processes, we have to improve our people. Why? When I have developed my capabilities, I can build the right strategies for the organization. Given the long-term vision, given the mission of the organization, unless I have the right strategies, I may not choose the right processes for improvement. And since people have to improve processes, I must have the passion and ability to develop my own people. Leaders are the ones that are on day-to-day basis, they are the closest to their people. So the opportunity for coaching and developing them is the highest with the leader. And taken together, selecting the right strategies, we can put our efforts on selecting the right processes and improving the right processes. Now, as we keep improving our processes, one process at a time, we move towards excellence. It all starts with leaders, and it all starts with self-development of the leaders. So that is the first role of a leader, to be focused on developing his own abilities, his or her own abilities. Second, any process will have a current state. Current state means if it is a stabilized process, it will produce a steady quality and quantity of output at a standard cost. The natural state is the state of deterioration. I'll quote our founder, Mr. Masaki Imai. He used to have a very favorite quote. He used to say, everything on the gemba is destined to deteriorate if left alone. Everything in the gemba is destined to deteriorate if left alone. What does it mean? Improvement required efforts. All of us know that. But sustenance also requires effort. That is the message. Think about it. You buy a new machine, don't give it attention. Will it improve or deteriorate? Improve or deteriorate? If you take in a fresh, motivated employee, stop paying attention to him. Don't attend to his grievances. No reward and recognition. Will things improve or deteriorate his motivation? If you don't pay attention to people, will their motivation deteriorate or not? Likewise for processes. The implication is sustenance requires effort, so we have to do something about it. We call it sustenance management. It's like standing on a treadmill. If the treadmill is moving, in order to remain at the same place, I still have to make an effort. Yes, that's sustained management. Now, if I remain here and everybody else improves, I automatically get left behind. So I have to do some improvement. I have to keep improving my process. So that's improvement management. And the third is, as we said, the environment is changing, regulations are changing, competition is changing, technology is changing. So I have to prepare for the future. And that's future change management. These are three capabilities that must coexist in an organization. Not one, not two, all three must coexist. Well, this is a picture that appeared for the first time in Mr. Imai's first book. He says the rectangular above represents all the activities that the organization does, and there are four hierarchies there. He says the top management and supported by middle management, they keep taking decisions for improving the organization by what he called innovation. And when he talked of innovation, he described it as those decisions which are taken, which require investment of resources, investment of money. I want to buy a new technology, a new machine, a new IT system, hire new people, go into a new country. All that requires investment. Legitimate decisions, those are the kind of improvement decisions top management takes. But rest of the organization, the blue zone, is basically just firefighting, and all levels of the organization, and a traditional organization, all they do is firefighting. He used to say people come to the organization, when they come, they don't necessarily all know what is it that we are going to do today. The first fire decides where they start. And before they are through, there is a second crisis, a third crisis, and the day goes in crisis management. That is the fate of most people in a traditional organization. He says from that, we have to move towards this picture, and this picture is when a traditional organization changes through some daily problem solving activities so that recurring problems get sorted out by root causes, and what we are left with is standard work. Standard work, when it is followed, we get standard output in terms of quality, quantity, cost. In order to improve our processes, we have to do what is called project Kaizen. These are normally cross-functional processes needing cross-functional teams, and there is more time available for breakthrough Kaizen. So this picture, which if you can see has became our logo, represents a Kaizen organization or an excellent organization. So there are three kinds of abilities which are built into our model. To be able to decide the right strategies, to be able to improve the processes, and to be able to stabilize them. And the time spent in these activities at different levels is shown by the different colors. At the bottom of the organization, maybe 10-15% of the time is spent by people on improvement, the rest on following standard work, producing the day-to-day output. And likewise, what is the goal of the organization? To steadily increase the portion of the organization that can keep working on improvement. And this is a gradual process. So we looked at this. The blue portion, stabilization, comes through sustained management. We call it daily Kaizen in our model. The middle portion, will come later. The top portion is when we build our strategies, the strategy will decide which process to focus on. And that will lead to improvement management, which we do through Project Kaizen. Now the key is what? All the actions that come from strategy or from improvement, they will get implemented where the processes are going on in the workplace. So all actions from strategy or projects will get executed only on the Gemba, and they'll get stabilized only on the Gemba. So all action plans will go towards frontliners. If that is the situation, this is the way to go. First, ensure that you have, after improvement of processes, you have good standards, 4 M's in man, machine, method, material. You visualize and follow standards, and then there's a technique called visual control, which is supposed to show you at a glance whether a process is being followed or not. And then accountability to take countermeasures, corrective actions on day-to-day basis. This is a bottom-up process. This is what we call daily Kaizen. The top-down process is the Strat Kaizen. Strategic plans are at organization level, divisional level, until they get cascaded down to the natural teams that work with these processes at the ground. Now, excellence requires, success requires that they meet and they align. Daily Kaizen will ensure day-to-day operational stability, and strategic Kaizen will allow you to select the right organization goals that must be met at every level in an aligned way. If you understand this, you also can understand that until there is a basic operational stability, no strategy will ever work. If the action plans are going to come down to the workplace and they are not able to adopt and stabilize and standardize those processes and adhere to them, no improvement will actually last. What is the implication? We cannot do strategy without having a robust daily work management process. If that is the case, this is our learning. We must stabilize our day-to-day operations first, only then start strategy. If you start with strategy, you're bound to fail. This is the second learning. First, stabilize the operational level, build the ability to sustain, to accept change and sustain improvements. Only then start a strategy. The improvements will be easily absorbed, will be easily sustained. Without that, strategy will remain in the air. And that brings me to the last. And we have to go back to A, B, C. We have to go back to basics. Look at this carefully. There are two kinds of studies that were done. The studies were to find out the correlation between behavioral change and the results. And those of you who have studied statistics would know the correlation coefficient, the closer it is to 1, the higher is the correlation. So as you see, when the correlation is 0.8 between behavior change and results achieved, then the amount of variation of results explained by level of change in behavior is 64.5%. What is important is the last one. Probability of achieving the result through chance alone, which is 0. Just by wishing something, it will not happen. By chance, no miracles happen. And the second study is also similar, numbers are slightly different. What is the implication? Change management is about behavioral change. There is a cause-effect relationship which is established. In order to explain this, please pay a little attention. It will take just a few, 3-4 minutes to understand, but it is vital. It is the most important learning I've had in many years. We are trying to understand what is ABC. A stands for antecedents. Whenever you want to change anything, antecedents is preparation for change. How do you prepare? If some new knowledge is required, you gather people and train them. If there are new policies required, you establish those policies. New documents required, new IT system required, you prepare for it. What you do before change is called antecedents. Change will happen when people change their behaviors. I'll also explain this through a simple example so that you understand what it is all about. Based on this preparation for change, the way I start behaving after the change is implemented is the B part. And the C part is called the consequence of my behavior. Consequence will automatically happen after the behavior. Are we sure? Antecedent is before change, behavior is once you implement the change, and consequences what happens after your behavior. Let me take a simple example to make it clear. Okay, supposing you are used to driving for work every day, and there is a crossing which has not too much of traffic. You pass through it comfortably every day, and as time goes by, the traffic starts increasing, and the police decides that this junction requires a signal. Those red, green, yellow signal, and therefore they put up a poster saying from 1st of April the signal will apply and you have to follow the traffic rules. Now you are used to going this way for years. The first day you reach there, you find not much traffic, and you find a red light, and if you see no policemen, so the way Indians normally function, you look to the right, you look to the left, all coast clear, no policeman seen, you comfortably keep driving. So what was the antecedent? Antecedent is you can see a physical change. You have seen a notice that from 1st of April something is going to change. Second is behavior. How I am behaving against that change. Now, if I drive past and there is no consequence, what is the result? The next day I come, I find the same situation, what will I do? Keep going, isn't it? Now, supposing there is a consequence. Somebody catches me after I have crossed and signs the challan, gives you a fine. Or these days there is technology. The photograph is taken of your nameplate and you get an SMS. Please deposit so and so fine, etc., etc. That's the consequence. Now, if I have a consequence, the next day when I am going through that crossing, what will be my behavior? Will I still cross? Maybe, but the chances are that I will be a little more conscious. My behavior may start getting modified. So you understand antecedent behavior and consequences? Now, in corporate life, antecedents are like this. Some notice board, some notice, some project plan, some training policies, procedures, something will be informed to you. and behavior will be specified. And behavior can be desired or not, undesired behavior. That means, supposing it's a safety situation, undesired behavior is unsafe behavior. Desired behavior is safe behavior. And what are the kind of consequences? Consequences, the right kind of consequences will encourage repetition of behavior. And if your behavior is wrong, then the consequences should discourage that behavior. All right? So what are the examples? A pat on the back, well done, that's a consequence. A feedback, attendance is being marked, you are late today, that's a feedback. You understand bonus, you need to understand recognition. You also understand whether it is more comfortable to follow the new process or not, less comfortable. But the last one is a little more difficult, silence and inattention. Tell me, how many of you are married? Raise your hand. All right, good, plenty of experience. Tell me, how many times have you experienced silence as a consequence of something that your spouse does not like? Anybody? So silence is a good communicator, isn't it? Very effective. You know, mothers often tell the child, if you don't do this, I will not speak to you. Yeah. So, likewise, if you have a team member and he always says good morning, you say good morning when you come to work, and one day when he has done something wrong, he comes and says, while walking you meet him, he says good morning, you don't respond. Keep going. Is that a communication? That's a consequence. That can be a consequence as long as it gives the message why this consequence. And this consequence will help in modifying behavior. Now, this psychological way of handling things has been used in organizations, and I'll tell you how. So, consequences come after the behavior and influence whether or not the behavior will be repeated again. Now, the consequences have some properties. Nature is the first consequence, that is positive consequence or negative consequence. Positive is when you pat somebody's back, well done, keep doing it. Negative is not acceptable, be careful. Timing of the consequence, immediate or sometime in the future. Immediate is right now, here. Future is we don't know, next bonus, next Diwali, next Christmas, next year, next increment. Third is predictability. Predictability of the consequence, certain or uncertain. Now, the design of the consequence decides whether behavior will change or not. And here it is. First of all, understand what we call the 80-20 paradox here. The paradox is this. When we prepare for change in an organization, 80% of our focus is on preparation, on antecedents. But the reality is that antecedents have 20% impact on the result. So what has 80% impact on the result? Consequences have 80% impact on the result. How well you prepare will impact 20% of the results. If you design proper consequences for people's behaviors, they will decide 80% of your results. Whether the change will be adopted comfortably or not depends on understanding this simple fact. So this is something that we understand. Positive consequence will encourage the behavior to continue, and negative consequence will discourage the behavior. But this is where the secret of consequences lie. If the consequence is not immediate and certain, it has no value. If the consequence is not immediate and if it is not certain, consequences have no value. So if you want behavioral change to happen, please ensure that there are consequences, and consequences need not be something dire. They can be very simple feedback mechanisms. Just marking attendance will ensure people come in time. A lot of things can be done by designing simple consequences. Only in extreme cases you may take extreme measures. Are we together? So what is the conclusion? New results will always require new behaviors. When we change the behavior of people, until the behavior becomes a habit, and a collection of habits is a culture. So change management requires management of routines until those routines can be converted to behaviors, and until the behaviors become ingrained as a habit, real change will not happen. And in order to make real change happen, please remember A, B, and C. Design consequence management. Effective consequence management will determine whether your change is effective or not.
You cannot change a person without changing his beliefs. You can give lectures, you can give speeches, you can give references, you can motivate them, you can shout at them, you can scream at them, you can reprimand them, you can give them incentives, you can give them awards, but you cannot change a person without changing his beliefs. He doesn't believe in punctuality. You can say program will start on time. He'll say, everybody says, but it won't start. No, you can't change him without changing his beliefs. And one day when you stood outside, your belief changed. No, there is one place where program starts on time. You're inside. You cannot change a person without changing his beliefs. He does not believe he is leadership material. And unless you transform him to understand his leadership material, you can keep on giving him responsibilities and he'll keep failing. It frustrates you because he was an extraordinary clerical staff, but he's a lousy manager. Because he thinks he's a great worker, but he doesn't think he can be a great leader. And he can be a great leader if you can somehow bring about a shift in the quality of the beliefs with which he looks at himself. He was a great salesman. Because he was a great salesman, you promoted him as a sales manager, and he's a lousy sales manager. In fact, after he became sales manager, few more good salespeople resigned and went. And he caused the resignation because somehow he still sees himself only as a salesperson. So though he is a sales manager right now, and there is a difference. Selling is an art. Being a sales manager is a science. I need to impart the science of selling to others to enable them to produce results. He enjoys the art of selling. He still doesn't know the science of selling. And he doesn't have this belief that he can be a great sales manager. As a salesman, you are responsible for the results you produce. As a sales manager, you are responsible for the results your team will produce. But because he is an inherent salesman, anywhere he says, I will come with you, I will go on a joint call, I will take the call, and he'll make the salesman passive, and he will take every call. You can see that in every retail showroom even today. The moment an important customer comes, the main guy in the business will step forward and say, I will take care of this customer. What for service? He somehow believes if the counter salesman attends to you, the billing value will be 3,000. But if he attends to you, the billing value can be 7,000. He believes he can present the products and material much better to you than the counter salesman. So he steps forward. 25 years later in the business, he is still a counter salesman. 30 years later, when it has become such a big unit, he still continues to be in the counter because his belief is still he can produce 2x on the counter when his people can produce only 1x. True. But what you don't realize is you can be 10 times better than anybody in your organization, but you can't do the work of 10 people. Now what happens if 5 important people walks into the showroom? Who will you attend to? Now he does not still see himself in the leadership role. So if you want to change the productivity of the organization and you have a few loyal people in the organization and you really believe these loyal people should be holding powerful positions within the organization, their belief system has to be changed. And the first shift in leadership is he has to be made to understand your success is no more by the results you produce, but your success depends on the results you get other people to produce. You work for 8 hours and you produce 8 hours of results. Now you work for 8 hours and you have to produce 80 hours of results by getting the remaining 10 people to produce results. And without transforming that belief system, shifting the chair, shifting the salary structure, shifting the designation, shifting the place from which he'll operate, will not shift the results he is producing.